Hello everyone, my name is Jamie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to talk all about moss poles. The main things is making a moss pole, when you should use a moss pole, on what plants, and some of the benefits of using moss pole. So I have here a large form Monstera. I've had her for a few months. She has totally outgrown the moss pole that I've given her. Now, she was in an Aroid mix. I potted her up, and what you find with climbing plants is a lot of the time they need some stability. So that could be a pole, a stick, or in some cases, a moss pole like this. Now, without getting into details, there's so many different types of moss poles you can buy online. This one is just a plastic one that I filled with moss myself. And what it does is it supports the plant, but more importantly, it also allows the aerial roots here to go into the moss pole, root down into the plant, as you can see here, and then go into the potting mixture. Now, there's plenty of benefits of this. The main ones is it's going to give you larger leaves, as well as if the plant for some reason dies in that pot there, it still has a root system in the moss pole itself. So that is her. She's totally outgrown it, as you can see. This is dying to be put on a moss pole just because she's trying to find something to hold on to and she can't. But yes, as you can see there, I'll show you again. That is the aerial root. It's gone in. It's now going to form a lovely soil root, and she's going to go down to the pot. So today, I'm going to repot her. I'm going to pop her in a moss pole, which I'm going to make in a minute. And then we're going to just see over the next few months the benefits of growing her on a moss pole. Now, before we start, what I do want to say is that I genuinely believe the main benefit of these moss poles is bigger leaves. The moss poles are a bit of a faff. Making them yourself, they might create a bit of a mess. They're a bit hard to get used to. Sometimes they fall, like what happened with my melanochrysum over here. It fell, was a bit unstable, and it damaged some of the leaves. It is a bit fiddly. People don't really like them. It might not look as good because it's just a massive pole instead of the leaves. I get that. But I'm going to show you two photos. Photo 1 and 2 here. Now, these photos, I bought one for my girlfriend and I bought one for myself. They are, when purchased about 3 years ago, they had the same amount of leaves. They were the same size. One was on a moss pole and one wasn't. The bigger one, which you can see there, I only gave that a real moss pole about a year into having the plant. Now, as you can see here, this is the same plant, and she's just growing a new leaf, but the size of the leaves are so much bigger. They've been in the same place as well. I've only just got rid of that one, but they were literally right next to each other. You had one here and you had one there, and the difference of leaf size and growth is astonishing. So yes, that was just a little bit of it can give you big leaves. This one over here, the melanochrysum, hand up, I did not grow this myself. I actually picked this up. I went for a bit of a drive. Me and my girlfriend had a bit of a holiday. We picked this up from a seller who knows a lot about growing plants, especially philodendrons. And he has been growing this he's got 3, I think. And the leaf size of this melanochrysum is massive. In the UK, lower humidity as well. So the moss poles do work. That is the benefit. That is the main reason why I think you should get a moss pole on your plants, on your climbing plants. So we're going to move on. So what do you need to make your own moss pole? Well, you need some moss, obviously. I can attach a link on the description, but these videos have been done quite a lot before. You need your moss. You need a pot to repot it. You need some cable ties to tie the plant onto the pole, as well as tying the pole together. You need a pole to support the moss pole itself. I would much prefer metal poles rather than bamboo, just because they can rot. And then you've got your wide mesh. So this is predominantly what the moss pole is going to be made out of. You have a smaller square, which is these ones, or you've got larger squares. I'm not sure if you can see that, which are these ones here. Now, it doesn't really matter too much. I bought both and They're both really the same, to be honest. Maybe with the larger squares, sometimes the moss falls through a little bit more. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to cut the mesh so it is a good size to be able to put in the pole. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have it way too big. It'll be way too weighty as well. It could lean the plant over. And then when it's too thin, you might find that if you go to water it, and the most efficient way is just using water bottles, you can't fit the water bottle in because it's too thin, as well as it won't really be good enough to stabilize the plant. So I'm just going to cut, it's going to be 20 squares worth. So cut that now. A lot of your climbing plants are going to love having a moss pole. You can get, I will grab it in a second actually, you can get, when you go to garden centres, you find a lot of them that are on moss poles or on a PVC pipe moss pole with some fake moss. That helps with structuring, as in keeping structure to the plant. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't help with actually allowing the plant to thrive and grow more. So these are examples of the moss poles you might end up getting from garden centres or online. Now, as you can see, it's just PVC piping in the middle, and then the roots can't actually really go attach onto. So they're just going to cling onto it. As I said, it's just stability. Whereas hopefully if you do it this way, it will just allow the plant to grow a little bit bigger, because the roots can actually grow. The aerial roots can actually grow more and convert into soil roots. So that is just that. I thought I'd show you that. Right, so this is the mesh. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the moss on the mesh, making sure the moss is wet. I'm going to grab my moss. Forgot where it was then. So you're just going to make sure it's wet. It's a lot easier when it's wet. If it's dry, it will go everywhere. It just becomes way more compact. Don't overload the moss. You don't want to like slap a load on, but at the same time, you don't want to have loads of gaps, because I've done that over there, mowed the moss pole, and it doesn't support it very well, because then when the plant gets bigger, the moss pole will just bend because it doesn't have structure, because the moss isn't there. So now I would recommend you just leave a bit of moss at the top as well, just because if you're going to water it through just an empty water bottle, if it's all the way to the top, then like this, you're not going to be able to put the water bottle down. Leave a little bit, and then when you go to water it, you can just, it just slots right in. Moss is just covering, leaving a bit at the top, just for the water bottle, and then you're leaving a bit at the bottom for the soil, because you're going to put soil in the bottom part, which is then going to go into the pot itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cable tie it all up, apart from the end bit, the bottom bit, and I'll put soil in that in a minute. I know there's a lot of people on social media that are big advocates of moss poles. They're also very good at making them, and I think it does take a bit of time. I know it is easy, but if you're someone like myself who's not very good practically at this sort of stuff, it can be a bit of a faff to start off with. So the fact that I have, you know, trial and error, done a few things wrong with it. The concept of it is super simple, but sometimes the execution, especially the bigger the plant, and it weighing it down and getting the right pot size so it doesn't fall, and making sure it's enough support, all that jazz, it does start to just become a little bit of a faff if you don't have enough time. So that's why I'm not advocating this for everyone. These moss poles dry out so quick where I am. At the moment anyway, I think within 3 days it needs watering. And this is the other thing, talking about the watering, how easy it is with a moss pole to water it. All you do is tip a water bottle upside down and it waters the moss. However, sometimes that can still be quite an effort, because if you've got 6, 7 moss poles, you've got to tip the water every 3 days, but that's basically a daily routine. Which is fine, because it's only a few minutes, less than that, to just fill the water bottle and do that. But I do think you still need to just give the plant a bit of a shower, and then it becomes a bit of a nightmare, because trying to move that melanochrysum and trying to get that into, you're like you're rotating it horizontally and then pushing it through. It's a bit of a nightmare. I do still think they need to do that. But especially as I have a bit of a bug infestation right now of thrips, which is going to be another video, as I am losing the war. This one had it as well. I was like, oh my God. She doesn't look too bad though, considering she had. But I don't, that's part of it, isn't it? You're going to get some pests probably with the amount of plants. Right. This is it. This is the bad boy. I'm just going to cut all of these off. And then I'm just going to put some soil in at the bottom. So I've left a little bit of room at the top just to put the water bottle in. I'm just going to pop the soil out of here now and check out the roots. So she is very, oh my God. That's not in that long as well. Definitely grown quite a lot in such a short space of time. This is a 13 centimetre and this is a 19 centimetre. However, the surface area of the moss pole relative to what it was is a lot bigger. The moss pole will take a lot of this surface area and therefore there is less potting mixture in there. So I am more than confident that the roots are going to be completely fine in this with the moss pole in there. I have done this quite a lot of times before as well. And it also, a smaller pot size can result in it being a bit unstable. So if I was to repot it in a pot size like this, for example, pop the plant down. Now this would be only 2 centimeters more than this one. However, it's just still too small. It wouldn't actually fit with the moss pole in there as well. So yeah, I'm going to go with that one. And I'm just going to pot her up now. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to untangle those roots. She looks perfectly fine, perfectly happy with this. So I'm just going to keep her like so. Oh, wow. I've made a mess. Right, so this is a prime example. I don't know if you can see that, but opening this up, you've got the roots going all the way down. This isn't actually a pole, that is the root going all the way down into the moss, down into the soil, and there is new growth at the bottom of it as well. So I'll show you that there. That is the new growth. That's the pole. I'll take that out. So that's the new growth there going in. So that's what I mean by it's kind of what you want. It's what you're going for when it comes to creating your own moss pole. And if I was to go back again, I wouldn't have actually used this plastic moss pole because I just would have made my own and added it on top. With these, you can add them on top, but it's just too small. It was perfect size for when I bought the plant, but it's just too small now to be able to... Oh, the amount of mess I'm making right now. I should have done this over the sink. Right, so we do have some casualties, unfortunately. There is some roots that have... But this is the root system now. I'm going to attach her onto the pole that I've made. I'm going to put the soil in the bottom of the moss pole as well. But this is what I mean about using the wooden poles, is that they're just at the bottom. They're just all rotten. All rotten. Whereas the plastic, the metal ones won't do that. Now you'll need to put your pole in at the back. So I tend to just pop it in afterwards and wedge it down. I'm going to run out of ceiling space for this. Cable tie, more cable ties. And this is what it looks like. So that took probably about 35, 40 minutes, a whole lot of mess. It's not that expensive. If you buy it in bulk, it is really not that expensive to buy the metal poles, to buy the mesh, to buy the moss. The cable ties are super cheap. It's just time and mess. I'm sure you can do it way more efficiently than me, because if you saw this, it would be, yeah. But I would recommend this for people that have enough time to do it and have commitment enough to get better at it, because there are a lot of people on social media that are very good at it, but they invest a lot of time into it. And it is something you will just keep getting better and better. It's a bit fiddly to start off with. Now, when it comes to the watering process, I just puncture a few holes in the top of a water bottle, fertilize it during spring and summer, tip it upside down, crunch the moss when it's crunchy, like this one. There you go, see if you can hear that. So that needs watering, so I'll need to fill it with water. And then the other thing that I haven't mentioned. So as you can see here, the aerial root has gone into the moss and it will go down. I've just tucked it in. Now, there are some cases that the aerial roots will come out. You can cut a plastic water bottle. I'm trying to see if I don't think I can show you one. You can cut a plastic water bottle. There's one there where you can then cut it in half, attach it on, and then get some plant Velcro and just wrap it round. The other thing is, it's called air layering. I just put cling film. It doesn't look the nicest, but you can basically pop some cling film with moss over the top of the root, keep it nice and wet, and then the roots will go down into that soil. That's the two you can do for that, just in case, because what the roots might do is they might come out of the moss and then just dry out. So you don't want that. That's where all the new growth is coming from. So that's her. I will give you an update after a few months of growing, but she is super stable, very little wobbly. It's down to making sure that there's enough moss in that moss pole and you have some support there as well. So what over time is she will grow up. She might actually put a bit of pressure on that moss pole and move it forward, but I can always add some more support. So to sum up my views on moss poles, they are amazing if you want bigger plants, but they are time consuming. They are not for everyone, which is why not everyone's doing it. I don't think they add to the aesthetics of the plant. I think they do make it look a little bit more, I don't know what the word is. But if then again, you are good at growing the plants and the plant is loving the environment, you won't see the moss pole. You hardly see the moss pole in that melanochrysum. When you get the new leaf in, it will cover that. And also, more importantly, is it is really good for being able to propagate, because when the plant grows up, you can chop and then you can keep that cutting that you've got and put it into another pot and keep the mother plant going. And you won't need to add some water roots. It will already have roots in there. So there's some of the pros and cons. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want more videos to come. It means a lot if you guys can like and subscribe, and give me a comment on your thoughts on moss poles, your experiences on making the moss poles, and if you've had any actual experiences in the plant growing a lot better without one. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.